The rain never seemed to stop in this city. It slid down the glass windows of the cafe like melting silver, blurring the world outside, just the way I wanted it. No one looked twice at the girl wiping tables in the corner. Hair tied in a messy knot, apron smudged with coffee stains, head bowed. Just another invisible face. Exactly how I needed to be. It's been 6 months since I stopped being her. Hannah Lee, daughter of the Lee Group, the empire that owns half the city's skyline. The heiress with bodyguards, scandals, and a price on her head. Now I was simply Hannah Jean, the quiet part-timer who paid rent in cash and didn't exist in any database. I'd gotten good at pretending. Until today. The bell over the door chimed and I froze. He walked in like he owned the air, broad shoulders and a black coat, rain dripping from his hair, the kind of man who didn't belong anywhere near chipped mugs and burnt espresso. His eyes swept the room once, sharp, trained, searching. I ducked my head, but my heart already knew that stance. That silent authority. Jun Seo. My father's most trusted bodyguard. The man who used to stand 3 steps behind me everywhere I went. The man I once trusted with my life. And now, he was here. Americano. No sugar. His voice was the same, low, controlled, with a faint rasp that used to make people fall silent. I forced my hands not to shake as I poured the shot. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? The real Hannah Lee was gone, replaced by a stranger with dark-dyed hair and a thrift store uniform. Still, my pulse betrayed me. Your order, I said, sliding the cup forward. I kept my tone flat, my gaze averted. He took it, but his eyes lingered. Just a second too long. Like some part of him felt something familiar. Do I know you? My breath caught. Every muscle in me screamed run. I managed a small laugh. No, sir. I just have one of those faces. He studied me for another beat before looking away. The moment passed. But the danger didn't. Because if Jun Seo was here, it meant the Lee family was still being watched. And if they were being watched, someone might have tracked me down. The thought sent ice through my veins. As he sat near the window, rain dripping from his coat, I couldn't stop my eyes from drifting toward him. The scar near his jaw was new. His expression harder. The once loyal protector now looked more like a hunter. I didn't know if he was here by accident, or if he'd been sent to find me. Then his phone buzzed. He answered quietly, but I caught fragments. No sightings yet. Yes, still searching. Understood. My blood turned cold. He wasn't here for coffee. He was looking for me. And for the first time in 6 months, the walls I'd built around my new identity began to crack. Because the man who once vowed to protect me might be the one to destroy everything I've tried to rebuild. I shouldn't have looked back. But I did. The rain had eased to a soft drizzle by the time my shift ended. I tugged the hood of my coat low and slipped out the back door, cutting through the narrow alley behind the cafe. The air smelled of wet concrete and exhaust fumes. Cheap, forgettable. My kind of camouflage. Just another night. Just another escape. Except this time, he was somewhere out there. I walked faster, heartbeat syncing with the slap of my boots on the pavement. My mind replayed his voice. His questions, that sharp look that almost cut through my disguise. I couldn't risk staying. If Jun Seo reported even a suspicion, the people hunting the Lee heiress would know exactly where to look next. I turned onto a busier street, pretending calm, even as every instinct screamed. A car slowed beside me. Too slow. My reflection flickered in the window, and I caught the faint glint of a camera lens. Not paparazzi. Something colder. Damn it. They'd found me. My pulse spiked. I darted into the crowd, weaving through umbrellas and glowing signs. The city's noise swallowed me, but the footsteps didn't fade. Someone was following. I ducked into an underpass, trying to lose them, but the sound of shoes echoed behind me. 2 sets now, steady, deliberate. Panic clawed at my throat. I was about to run when a shadow stepped out from the other side. "Miss, you dropped this," a man said smoothly, holding out a handkerchief. Every nerve in my body screamed trap. I turned to flee, only for another man to block my path, expressionless beneath the streetlight. "Got her," he muttered into a calm. The first one lunged. I kicked, but he caught my arm, twisting it painfully. "Let go," I shouted, struggling, but his grip only tightened. Then suddenly, the man was gone. A flash of movement, a dull thud. The first attacker slammed into the wall, knocked breathless by a blow too fast to see. The second tried to draw a weapon, but a black-gloved hand yanked it away and sent him crashing to the ground. For a second the world froze. And there he was. Jun Seo. Rain dripped from his coat again as he stood between me and the men. His presence radiating the same calm danger I remembered. Controlled, lethal. "Are you hurt?" he asked, turning slightly toward me, his eyes sweeping over my face. I shook my head, heart in my throat. "And no. I'm fine." He didn't recognize me. Not yet. But his voice, his nearness, it made it hard to breathe. "Stay behind me," he said, stepping forward. The attackers scrambled to their feet, one clutching a knife. Jun Seo didn't hesitate. In two fluid motions, the blade clattered to the ground, and both men went down. Efficient. Precise. Merciless. When it was over, silence filled the underpass, broken only by my ragged breathing. He wiped a streak of rain from his brow and turned back to me. His eyes lingered. Dark. Searching. "You should be careful. It's not safe for women to walk alone this late." If only he knew how ironic that was. I'll remember that," I managed, forcing my voice to stay steady. He nodded, glancing toward the direction the attackers had fled. "You should go home. I'll take it from here." Home. If only I still had one. I hesitated, torn between gratitude and the ache of wanting to tell him everything. To drop the mask, to say his name the way I used to. But I couldn't. "Not yet. Thank you," I whispered. "For saving me." He gave a faint nod, then turned to leave, disappearing into the dark like a shadow swallowed by the rain. Only after he was gone did I realize something terrifying. The men who attacked me hadn't called me Hannah Jean. They'd called me Miss Lee. They already knew who I was. And now, so did he. The night air felt heavier after he left, like the city itself was holding its breath. I pressed my back against the cold wall of the underpass, trying to slow my racing pulse. They knew my name. That detail replayed in my head like a broken record. They hadn't guessed. They hadn't suspected. They'd known. I should have kept moving. Disappeared before he came back. But for one fragile heartbeat, I couldn't. I stood there, half hidden in shadow, staring at the place where Jun Seo had been. 6 months. 6 months since I'd watched him take a bullet for my father and vanish under a pile of chaos and headlines. I'd thought he'd died. Now, here he was, alive, colder, sharper, and still protecting me, without even knowing who I was. Or maybe he did know. I wrapped my arms around myself and forced my feet to move. Every step echoed like a countdown. I needed to get back to my apartment, grab my things, and vanish again. But the feeling of eyes on me didn't fade. I turned a corner, slipped into a quieter street, and froze. A shadow trailed just far enough behind to pretend it wasn't following. But the rhythm of those footsteps, steady, measured, deliberate. I knew it. Jun Seo. Of course he'd follow. That's what he did best. Observe, protect, corner his target without ever letting them see the net closing. I quickened my pace. He matched it. I ducked into a narrow lane between two buildings, but when I turned again, he was already there, a tall dark outline cutting through the misty light. "Wait," he said quietly. His voice wasn't a command this time. It was softer. Almost hesitant. I forced a smile, trying to sound casual. "If you're here to lecture me about walking alone at night again, I promise I learned my lesson." He didn't smile back. His gaze held mine, too steady, too sharp. "Those men. They called you Miss Lee." My heart stuttered. "I think you misheard." "No," he said, taking a step closer. "I don't mishear." He was close enough now that I could see the faint bruise along his jaw, the one I remembered from training days at the estate. His scent, clean, rain-damp, unmistakable, wrapped around me, and the years between us collapsed into one dizzying heartbeat. I took a step back. "Look, I don't know who you think I am. Hannah." My breath caught. He'd said it so quietly that if it weren't for the pounding in my chest, I might have thought I imagined it. He studied my face like he was piecing together a ghost. The hair's different. The eyes, colder. But the way you stand, the way you watch your exits, it's you. I swallowed hard, panic and longing twisting together. You're mistaken. He sighed, a low sound that made something in me ache. You shouldn't have come out here alone. They've been searching for you for weeks. The bounty on your head doubled last month. I froze. You're working for them? His eyes hardened. No. I'm the reason they haven't found you sooner. The words hit me like a physical blow. Then why follow me? To make sure you live long enough to decide what comes next. My hands trembled before I could hide it. You don't understand. I can't go back. They'll kill me, Junseo. Kill you too if they know you're helping me. Then don't let them know. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a low whisper meant only for me. You can run all you want, Hannah, but you're not safe out here. Let me protect you again. My throat burned. The rational part of me screamed to say no, to keep running. But my heart, traitorous, desperate, wanted to believe him. I can't trust anyone, I whispered. Then trust me one last time. For a moment, the city disappeared. It was just his voice, his eyes, and the sound of my heart breaking all over again. Before I could answer, a distant gunshot cracked through the night. Junseo's hand shot out, pulling me against him as a bullet shattered the streetlight above. Glass rained down like sparks. And just like that, I knew, whatever came next, there was no escaping him anymore. The world tilted in gunfire and shattered glass. Junseo's arm locked around me, dragging me down behind a parked car just as another shot cracked through the night. Sparks jumped off metal inches from my face. Move! He balked. I didn't think, just ran. Rain slicked the asphalt, and our footsteps splashed through puddles as bullets chased the echo of our breaths. He shoved open the side door of a warehouse, pulling me inside before slamming it shut. For a moment, the world went silent except for the drum of rain on corrugated steel. My lungs burned. My hands shook. Are you hit? He asked. I shook my head. No. You. He rolled his sleeve, revealing a fresh graze along his arm. It's nothing. Nothing. Right. Just blood. He scanned the dark space. Empty crates, dust, the smell of rust and oil. We can't stay here, he muttered. They'll sweep the area. Then where? He met my eyes, that same unflinching stare I remembered from every childhood memory that ended in danger drills. Somewhere they won't think to look. We slipped out through a back exit, weaving through alleys until the city lights faded into the outskirts. My legs screamed, but adrenaline carried me until we reached an old brick building hidden behind overgrown ivy. The paint-peeled door looked abandoned. Junseo punched a code into a small keypad half buried in the wall. The lock clicked. Of course he had a safe house. Inside, the air was musty but warm. A single lamp, a couch, a small kitchenette. I recognized the kind of space designed for disappearing. He locked 3 different bolts before finally exhaling. We'll stay until I know it's clear. I leaned against the wall, trying to slow my heartbeat. How long? As long as it takes. The words hung heavy. For the first time since I'd left home, I wasn't running alone. The thought terrified me more than the bullets had. He tossed me a towel. You're soaked. You'll catch a cold. I stared at him. You just dodged a sniper and you're worried about a cold? His lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. Old habits. Something in my chest twisted painfully. The way he looked now, wet hair falling into his eyes, blood seeping through his sleeve, was too human, too close. Who were they? I asked. His expression shuttered. Professional. Not random. They've been watching your old family holdings for weeks. So it's true, I said softly. Someone inside the company wants me dead. He didn't answer. Which meant yes. I have to disappear again, I whispered. New name. New city. I can't risk anyone. You won't last a week alone. I did before. You were lucky before. He took a step closer, voice dropping to a low, rough edge. Luck runs out, Hannah. My throat tightened. Then what? I stay here forever? Hide behind you while everyone I loved gets hunted? Until I figure out who's behind this, he said. After that, you can decide if you want to keep running. Silence stretched between us. The rain outside softened to a steady rhythm, filling the cracks his words left behind. I sank onto the couch, exhausted. Why are you doing this? You could have walked away. Pretended not to see me. He hesitated, then crouched in front of me. Because I promised your father I'd protect you. Because I failed once. His gaze locked on mine. I'm not failing again. The old ache returned. Grief, guilt, longing tangled into something dangerously close to trust. I don't need protection, I murmured, even though every tremor in my hands betrayed me. He leaned in, just enough for his breath to brush my skin. Maybe not. But I'm staying anyway. Something flickered in his eyes then. Something softer, almost forbidden. I looked away before it could burn me. Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline, and the safe house lights flickered once. He rose, checking the window locks again. I watched his reflection in the glass, alert, guarded, and for the first time in months, not alone. Maybe tomorrow I'd run again. Maybe I wouldn't get the chance. Because deep down, I already knew. Fate wasn't done with us yet. When I woke, the rain had stopped. The safe house was wrapped in that thin gray light that belongs to mornings after storms. Too quiet, too fragile, as if one wrong breath could shatter it. I sat up slowly, every muscle sore from running. The couch creaked beneath me. Juncio was already awake. He stood near the window, one hand resting on the curtain, eyes scanning the street below. He hadn't slept. I could tell from the tension in his shoulders. The silence between us hummed with unspoken words. Any movement? I asked. My voice came out rough. He didn't look back. No tail. But they won't give up that easily. He was right. The kind of people who hired snipers didn't stop after one failed attempt. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to piece myself together. You should rest. He turned then, gaze sharp but softer than last night. I'll rest when we're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign now. I didn't even know what that meant anymore. I tried to distract myself, heading to the kitchenette. The cupboards were stocked with instant coffee, protein bars, and a few emergency rations, military neat. I filled 2 cups, hands still trembling from adrenaline that hadn't burned out yet. When I set one on the table beside him, he finally spoke. I made a call while you were sleeping. I froze. To who? An old contact inside Lee Group Security. He paused. Your cousin Miho met privately with the chairman of CO1 Investments last week. The same company that's been buying up your family's shares through shell firms. I felt the blood drain from my face. Miho? It made sense. Too much sense. He'd always wanted control of the company. I'd thought the board would keep him in check. Apparently not. Juncio continued quietly. The hitmen last night were CO1's freelancers. Clean. Disposable. That means Miho's getting help from outside the family. My stomach twisted. He's not just after the company. He wants to erase every trace of me. Juncio's jaw tightened. Which means he won't stop. The silence stretched again. I stared down at the steam curling from my cup, willing my thoughts to slow down. What do we do now? I asked finally. We find proof, he said. If we expose him before he consolidates power, he loses leverage. But that means going back into the city. I looked up sharply. Back? That's suicide. Not if we're careful. He said it like it was simple, like walking into the lion's den was just another item on his to-do list. I wanted to argue, to tell him I'd rather disappear again, start over somewhere far away, but the image of Miho smiling across a boardroom table burned behind my eyes. I couldn't keep running while he destroyed everything my parents built. He must have seen the conflict on my face, because his voice softened. You don't have to decide now. Eat something. Think. He turned toward the door, checking his weapon, scanning his watch. Where are you going? I asked. Perimeter check. 10 minutes. The latch clicked behind him. When the sound faded, I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I should have been grateful. I should have felt safe. But all I could feel was the weight of what was coming. Revenge, betrayal, and the man who'd pulled me back into both. Through the cracked window, I watched him move outside. Steady, methodical, a shadow trained to keep death away. And I wondered, not for the first time, if trusting him again would save me. Or destroy us both. By late afternoon, the city was alive again. Normal people were buying flowers, fighting traffic, taking phone calls, completely unaware that just a few miles away, someone had tried to erase me from existence. Juncio drove us through it all with the same calm precision he'd always had behind a wheel, eyes flicking to the mirrors every few seconds, scanning every shadow that passed. I sat in the passenger seat, hood up, heart pounding with every turn. The air inside the car felt heavy with unspoken things. "Still sure about this?" he asked without looking at me. "No," I said honestly. "But I can't keep hiding while Miho takes everything." A faint smirk ghosted across his face. "You sound like your father." The words hit a nerve. "Don't." He didn't apologize. He just pressed his foot on the accelerator, merging into a stream of cars heading toward the business district. We ditched the sedan 2 blocks away from the Lee Group's downtown tower. My former home, my family's fortress. I hadn't seen it since the day everything went wrong. The mirrored glass still caught the sunlight like a blade. I pulled my cap lower, blending into the crowd. Juncio walked beside me, just close enough to shield me from curious glances, just far enough that we could pass for strangers. "The security hub's in the sub-basement," he murmured. "If Miho's been contacting CO1 through company channels, there'll be traces on the internal servers." "And you know how to get in?" He gave me a look that said of course. The service entrance on the east side was exactly as I remembered. Unmarked steel door, keypad access, security camera above the frame. I hesitated as he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small black device. "EMP jammer," he said. 3 seconds of blindness for the camera. "That's all we need." 3 seconds. Plenty. The faintest pulse of static hummed through the air as the jammer blinked red. In one swift motion, he keyed in an override code and pushed the door open. I followed him into darkness. Inside, the air smelled of dust and machine oil. The hum of power lines vibrated through the walls. Every step echoed too loudly. My heart thudded like a drum as we slipped into the security hub. A room lined with monitors, cables, and a single server tower glowing blue in the dim light. "This is it," Juncio said. "Stay by the door." He moved fast, plugging a flash drive into the system. I stood watch, fingers gripping the strap of my bag. Each second stretched thin. Come on," he muttered. The progress bar crept to 90%, then froze. "What's wrong?" "They've upgraded encryption since I was last here," he said, voice low. "Miho's expecting someone to snoop." A flicker on one of the monitors caught my eye. A hallway feed. Someone was coming. "Juncio," I hissed. "We've got company." He didn't hesitate. Yanked the drive, shut the system down, grabbed my hand. "Move." We slipped out the back door just as footsteps echoed down the hall. I barely had time to breathe before he pulled me into an empty supply corridor. "Wait," I started, but he pressed me gently against the wall, his hand covering my mouth. A guard passed inches from us, flashlight cutting through the shadows. My pulse raced beneath his palm. His body was solid warmth against mine, the steady rhythm of his breathing grounding me even as fear burned through my veins. The guard paused, looked around, then kept walking. When his footsteps faded, Juncio let go, eyes meeting mine in the dim light. "You okay?" I nodded, though my voice barely worked. "Yeah, you." He held up the flash drive, a small, defiant glint of victory. "Got enough to trace his transactions. It's not proof yet, but it's a start." We moved quickly through the maintenance tunnel and out into the night, emerging in an alley 3 blocks away. The streetlights painted everything in gold and gray. As we caught our breath, I realized my hand was still gripping his sleeve. I forced myself to let go. "What happens now?" I asked. He looked toward the tower one last time, jaw tight. "Now we find the person Miho's paying to pull the trigger. And we make them talk." Something in his tone sent a chill down my spine. Not anger, but a calm, cold determination. I swallowed hard. "And after that?" He glanced at me, eyes unreadable. "After that, you decide whether you still want to run, or take your family's name back." The city lights flickered in his gaze. Danger and promise intertwined. For the first time since this began, I didn't know which terrified me more. Night again. The city didn't sleep, it just traded faces. Suits by day, shadows by night. We found him at the edge of the riverfront district, where old warehouses had been turned into bars and poker dens. According to the data Jun Seo pulled, Miho's payments had been funneled through a middleman, Kong Jae, an ex-Lee Group logistics manager with a taste for gambling and the survival instincts of a rat. Perfect place to corner a man who thought he'd vanished. Stay close, Jun Seo murmured as we moved down the narrow alley behind the clubs. The air smelled of cheap liquor and engine oil. He meets a courier at 10. He'll have hard copies, contracts, names. What happens if he doesn't show? His gaze flicked to me. Then we make him. I didn't ask how. We waited in the shadows across from the loading bay, rain tapping softly against the metal awning. At 10:07, a man stumbled out of a side door, cigarette glowing between his fingers. Broad shoulders. Limping slightly. Kong Jae. He looked older than I remembered from board meetings. Hair gone gray at the temples, the swagger of someone who thought money could erase betrayal. He pulled a small envelope from his coat and lit another cigarette, scanning the street. Courier's late, Jun Seo muttered. Now's our window. Before I could respond, he was already moving. Silent, controlled, every step measured. I followed, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Kong Jae barely had time to react before Jun Seo grabbed his wrist, twisting until the envelope hit the ground. Who are you? Jun Seo's voice was calm, lethal. The man you used to work for. Recognition flickered. Jun Seo? I heard you were dead. Surprise, he said flatly. Kong Jae's eyes darted to me, confusion shifting to fear. Wait, no, that can't be, Miss Lee? My breath hitched. Too late to hide. His face went pale. You're supposed to be dead. I stepped closer. You almost made sure of that, didn't you? I had no choice, he stammered. Your cousin made the deal. Said it was just politics. He promised. Promised what? Jun Seo cut in. That if I kept quiet, I'd be safe. Jun Seo tightened his grip. You think men like Miho leave witnesses? Kong Jae winced. I still have copies of the contracts. Bank routes, offshore accounts, everything. It's insurance, I swear. Where? He hesitated. Jun Seo pushed him harder against the wall. Where, Kong? In the old port office, he blurted. Locker 17. The code's my ID number. Please, I didn't mean for anyone to die. The sound came a split second before I registered it. Click. Jun Seo's head snapped toward the alley mouth. Two men stepped out of the darkness, guns raised. Drop him, one ordered. Kong Jae's eyes went wide. No, you said. The shot hit him before he finished the sentence. His body crumpled to the ground, blood spreading fast across the pavement. Down. Jun Seo shoved me behind a dumpster as bullets ripped through the alley. The deafening crack of gunfire drowned out my scream. Stay here, he barked, returning fire with controlled bursts. One man fell. The other ducked behind a car, firing wildly. I crawled toward Kong Jae's body, ignoring the burn in my knees. The envelope, still on the ground, fluttered open in the wind. Inside were papers, edges smudged with blood. I snatched them up and crawled back just as another shot ricocheted off the wall. Got it! I yelled. Move! Jun Seo grabbed my hand, dragging me toward the side exit. We burst through a maintenance gate and into the street. Tires screeched somewhere behind us, but he didn't slow down until we reached the river bridge. Only then did he stop, both of us gasping for air. You okay? He asked, voice rough. I nodded, clutching the bloody papers. He said locker 17. Old port office. Jun Seo wiped rain and sweat from his face, eyes hard. Then that's where we go next. I looked down at Kong Jae's blood on my hands and felt something inside me shift. Fear. Grief, no. Anger. For months I'd been running, hiding, surviving. But tonight proved one thing. They wouldn't stop until I stopped them first. Jun Seo's gaze met mine in the dim light of the bridge. You're shaking, he said quietly. I'm done running, I whispered. Let's finish this. For the first time, he didn't argue. The port had been abandoned for years, but it still smelled of salt, oil, and ghosts. Concrete cranes stood frozen against the midnight sky, rust bleeding down their spines like old wounds. Every sound echoed too loudly, the sea grinding against the docks, a loose chain clinking somewhere above. Jun Seo killed the headlights and coasted the last 100 meters in silence. We stopped behind a row of rusted containers. Locker 17's inside the customs office, he said, checking his weapon. Ground floor, north wall. I swallowed the knot in my throat. And if someone's already waiting? Then we improvise. His tone was calm, but his eyes weren't. They burned with that quiet fury that came only when he was ready to bleed for someone. The air was cold enough to bite. We slipped through a hole in the chain-link fence, boots crunching on gravel. The port stretched ahead, dark, endless, alive with the hum of something unseen. Inside the office, the smell hit first: mildew, rust, and wet paper. Moonlight spilled through broken windows, striping the floor in silver. File cabinets lay overturned, graffiti scrawled across the walls. Jun Seo raised a finger. Wait. We both listened. Nothing but the wind. He motioned for me to stay close. I followed his silhouette through the debris until we reached the far wall. Rows of old steel lockers stood there, numbers fading under layers of dust. 17. Bottom row. I crouched, entered the ID code Kong Jae had given us. The keypad beeped, then clicked open. Inside lay a waterproof envelope and a small flash drive wrapped in tape. My heart thudded. This is it, I whispered. Jun Seo nodded. Grab it, Han. The lights exploded to life. I flinched, blinded. A dozen laser sights cut through the darkness, pinning us in red. A voice echoed from the stairwell. Smooth. Familiar. Well, it drawled. I was beginning to think you wouldn't take the bait. Miho. He stepped into view flanked by armed men, his tailored coat immaculate even in the grime. The cousin who used to pat my head at family dinners, now smiling like a wolf. Hello, Hannah, he said. Or should I say, the ghost of the Lee heiress? Rage burned the air from my lungs. You tried to have me killed. He tilted his head. I tried to save the company. You were in the way. Jun Seo moved slightly in front of me, his stance coiled. You'll answer for the people you've buried, Miho. Miho's smile widened. You always were loyal. Shame loyalty doesn't pay well. He lifted a hand. Shoot him. The command snapped like glass. Gunfire erupted. Jun Seo shoved me behind a desk, returning fire with mechanical precision. Shells clattered across the floor, dust filling the air. I ducked, clutching the envelope to my chest. The flash drive was our only chance. Window, he shouted. We sprinted for the far side of the room. A bullet grazed my shoulder, tearing through my jacket. Pain flared hot, but adrenaline drowned it. Jun Seo smashed the glass with the butt of his gun, then boosted me through. I landed hard on the wet concrete outside. He followed a second later, rolling to his feet as more bullets shattered the frame. This way, he grabbed my hand, dragging me toward the pier. Behind us, Miho's voice roared commands, but the storm swallowed them. We dove behind a container just as a black SUV screeched to a stop ahead, headlights slicing through the fog. Backup team, Jun Seo muttered. He planned this. My mind raced. The flash drive, there's a tracker, isn't there? He met my gaze, realization flashing. That's how he found us. I ripped the tape open, finding a tiny blinking chip embedded in the casing. Without thinking, I hurled it into the dark water. It vanished with a soft splash. Time to disappear again, he said. We sprinted toward the docks. Bullets chased us, pinging off metal. Somewhere behind, Miho shouted my name like a curse. Jun Seo grabbed a flare from his belt, cracked it, and tossed it into a fuel puddle. The instant blaze roared up, painting the night in orange fire. We didn't stop running until the flames swallowed the port. When we finally collapsed behind a stack of containers near the water's edge, the heat from the burning office shimmered across our faces. He looked at me, breathing hard. You all right? I nodded, clutching my arm. Just grazed. You. Fine. He gave a grim half-smile. But Miho knows we're alive, and that we have the data. I looked back at the inferno lighting the sky. Then he knows we're coming. He didn't answer, but the fire in his eyes said enough. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I was ready to fight. The city looked different at dawn, like it was holding its breath before the storm broke. From the rooftop across from the Lee Group tower, the glass facade caught the first light and turned it to fire. Somewhere inside, Miho thought he'd won. He hadn't. Jun Seo crouched beside me, loading a new mag into his pistol with the calm precision of a man who'd already accepted whatever came next. Security rotation changes in 5 minutes, he murmured. That's our window to reach the boardroom. I nodded, tightening the strap on my shoulder bag. Inside sat the flash drive, the one copy of the contracts Kong Jae died for. Digital proof of Miho's alliance with CO1 Investments. Proof that would destroy him. We slipped in through the maintenance shaft before the first employees arrived. Every floor hummed with the sterile quiet of wealth. Polished marble, scent of disinfectant, the faint echo of distant footsteps. Straight to the top, Jun Seo said. They're meeting early. He wants to announce himself as acting chair. My heartbeat pounded louder than the elevator's ascent. Every second stretched. Every memory. My father's office, my mother's perfume, the sound of laughter in these same halls, tightened around me like ghosts waiting for justice. The doors slid open. Miho stood at the head of the boardroom table, flanked by his advisors. His expression barely flickered when he saw us, just a small, incredulous smile. Well, he said, the dead really don't know when to stay buried. You should have learned when to stop digging graves, I said, stepping forward. Gasps rippled around the room as the board members recognized me. Cameras clicked. Miho's own press crew had been waiting to film his promotion. Perfect. I slid the flash drive across the table. Play it. One of the executives hesitated, glancing at Miho. Sir. Do it, I said. Or the police will. Jun Seo handed over a portable reader and connected it to the projector. Files bloomed across the screen. Contracts, offshore transfers, emails tying Miho directly to the assassination orders. Each one stamped, signed, undeniable. The room fell silent. Miho's mask cracked. You think this will matter? You've been gone for months. You're nothing but a ghost. I met his eyes. Then let the ghost speak. I turned to the cameras. My name is Hannah Lee. I was targeted by my cousin, Miho Lee, who embezzled corporate funds and conspired with CO1 Investments to seize control of our company. These documents are proof. Reporters erupted. Phones flashed. Security rushed in, but they hesitated when Jun Seo raised his badge. Private protection, authorized by the late Chairman Lee, he said. His voice carried the weight of truth. Miho lunged for the laptop. Jun Seo intercepted him, twisting his arm behind his back. The envelope spilled from Miho's coat. Final copies of the same contracts, signed in his own handwriting. Game over, Jun Seo said coldly. Sirens wailed outside, growing closer. The board members backed away, whispering. Miho's calm returned suddenly. Dangerous, mocking. You think this makes you safe? The people behind CO1 won't stop. They'll come for you next. Let them try, I said. Police stormed in. Cameras caught everything. The cuffs, the shouting, Miho's final glare as they dragged him out. For the first time in months I breathed. Really breathed. When the noise faded, I turned to Jun Seo. The adrenaline drained all at once, leaving me trembling. It's over, I whispered. He gave a faint smile. Almost. He nodded toward the windows, where the rising sun spilled gold across the skyline. You should say something to them, the board. They'll listen now. I faced the table, my reflection glimmering in the glass. The Lee Group was built on trust and blood. I can't undo what's been done. But I'll rebuild what's left, and I'll make sure no one ever dies for this company again. Applause rippled, hesitant at first, then stronger. When it ended, I found Jun Seo waiting by the door. His coat was torn, his sleeve still bloodstained from the port fight. He looked tired and alive. What happens now? I asked. You rebuild, he said. I disappear again. Something in my chest clenched. You don't have to. He smiled. Small, real, heartbreaking. That's the job, Hannah. Outside, the sun was bright enough to sting my eyes. I reached for his hand before he could turn away. Then stay until morning, at least. He hesitated. And for one quiet, impossible moment he did. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more original novel stories. And stay tuned, our next story is coming soon.